That's what I work out to. So, to me, this song is its own kind of declaration of independence. An independence from an old concept of God, which really is what the center is all about. Really getting an understanding of a concept of God that is not only user-friendly, but actually does something for us in our lives. So I want to start with the lyric, which is, I found God on the corner of First and Amistad. I thought it was Amistad, but of course you need to rhyme God. So it's, I found God on the corner of First and Amistad. Now what's interesting is the guy who wrote that lyric, his name is Isaac, he thought he made it up, but then it turns out he didn't make it up, because there is a corner of First and Amistad, and it happens to be in the middle of the desert in Texas, which I found very fascinating. So these guys, when they started out as young Christian, they went to church, they were in their youth groups, and they were playing in a band together, and they were writing Christian songs. And all of a sudden they heard this message, as I said, that you need to write about life. And what they understood was that life is God, God is life, and it's time to start just expressing God as the life that I live. And that I no longer have to talk about God specifically, because that's who I am. That's what I do. It's what's going on at all times. So I find it fascinating that a young group like this can write songs like this, which I'm sure many of you, how many of you have ever heard that song before? Right, how many of you, this is the first time you've heard it? How many of you could never hear it again and be okay? I mean, I knew picking this song, that there'd be some people who'd be like, really? That's something I expected to hear at church. And yet it's what we need to hear, because it's really the truth. And I want to go through this. I found God at the corner of First and Amistad. Now the question is, for me, where do you find God? Where do you find God? I think we spend an awful lot of time trying to go places to find God. It's very funny because I'm actually flying to Seattle today to go to a minister's retreat. But I'm not going there to find God, because I know God's going there. And I know God will meet God there. And it's called God everywhere. But I do think we have this idea that we need to go somewhere to find God, or we need to behave a certain way to express God. And that when we're not there, and when we're not expressing that way, we somehow think less of ourselves. We somehow think, oh, well, that's not the godly way to do this. And yet, if that's how you just did it, that's how God just did it. Think about that. Now, you may not be happy with the way God just did it, but that doesn't mean that God suddenly left the building to let you do all the bad work. It doesn't. And this is the mindset we have to get into, and that's why I love this song. I love that these guys can just stand there and sing, I was lost and all alone, but you found me. No matter where I go, you find me. You have to find me because I'm never lost. And that's the message. And I love this. All alone, I found God at the First and Amistad, all alone, smoking his last cigarette. And I said, where you been? And he said, ask me anything. Notice how God avoids the question. Right? It's where you been? Ask me anything other than that. Right? No. Ask me anything. So what's the question? It's the question how many of us ask? Where were you when everything was falling apart? How many of you have ever had that thought to yourself when everything's falling apart? And now where is God? Really? I mean, imagine most of us have had that, where is God in this? Where is God here? I've told the story about my cancer until I'm just, over it. I'm way over talking about that. But I will tell you this. That moment laying on the bottom of my toilet where I was everything was gone. I was like the skinniest I've ever been, the sickest I've ever been, empty from any nutrient that could possibly be in my body, and yet there was more. And I just kept going, and I just started laughing because I got it. And it really was one of the primal moments in my life that turned everything around for me. That, oh my God, God's even here. God's even in this moment laughing with me and crying with me and being really skinny with me, as me. And I got that. So, where were you when everything was falling apart? So where is God here? Where is God in this? Where was God on Flight 214 yesterday? Now, I know most of you read it and saw it. And so I heard it all around me, people talking about it. My dinner guests came in talking about it. I had not heard about it, but I did after that, and then looked at it. Where was God on Flight 214? And I guarantee you many people will feel God was devoid of Flight 214, but came in to help. That's the concept we usually have. We call God forth when we're in trouble. Yet Flight 214 was God flying through the air, and was also God missing the ramp, and was also God in the 2 teenage girls that made their transition. It's all God. It has to be all God, because if we decide that any part of that is not God, we have just created a dualistic understanding of God. And we're really, really setting ourselves up for a very difficult life when we allow ourselves to be separate from God in any situation whatsoever. Where was God when the fireworks malfunctioned in Simi Valley? Those of you who heard about that? The fireworks tipped over and shot into a crowd. And I'm sure there were people thinking, how could God let that happen? And really, there is an answer to that, because as God says, as he's smoking his last cigarette, ask me any question. The issue is, ask me any question, but the answer is inside of you. Don't look to me for the answer. The answer is your answer to give. Where was God on 9/11? Where was God during the Holocaust? And you can go on, and I'm sure all of you have the many different variations of where was God at boom boom. Where was God during the boom boom? If I am God, then, here's the question most people ask. If I am God, then why is there so much suffering? If I am God, if I am truly God, then why do I suffer? Why? God's not suffering. Or is the experience of suffering part of the experience of understanding that it's all God? So, just like God on that corner, I'm not going to give you the answers to those questions. I want to give you the questions. And I want you to sit with the questions. And I want you to know and see what your true answers are to those questions. Because that's the beginning of your journey to the understanding, I am God. Knowing where you are right now in this. Our forefathers came over here and started a country out of nothing. And they had to start it out of nothing, but they started it with where they were and what they knew about what they knew. And they also started it by knowing what they no longer wanted. They no longer wanted to be under a regime that was holding them down. Well, I no longer want to be part of any religion that would hold me down and have me be anything other than the amazing truth of the truth that God is right where I am. And that's where we are. So we're like this new country starting. And we are about to sign our Declaration of Independence from all of that other stuff. But you have to decide to be one of those forefathers who decides to actually sign the document. So going on in the song, it says, all my days were spent by the telephone that never rang, and all I needed was a call that never came to the corner of First and Amistad. As though, and I love this, he kind of mixes his metaphors there, but I love this idea as though God doesn't get our calls. Has anyone ever felt like God was just not taking your call? You know, well, here's what's happening. You know what? God wasn't taking your call. And the reason being, you had the wrong number. Think about it. We all had the wrong number. We were calling out. And we needed to learn how to just call within. Did you just get that? Good. I'll wait. No, but think about that. I'm done calling out for help. It's time to know that the call must be made within my own mind as myself. So, lost and insecure, then the hook that hooked me at the gym. Lost and insecure, you found me. You found me. How many of you feel, and here's the deal, you're sitting here today, you're at this center, many of you have been here for many, 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 many years. Why are we here? Why do we congregate on a Sunday or on a Wednesday? Why do we come together to even talk about this stuff? You know why? Because of this lyric, you found me. The truth found me. The truth found me out, as if I had needed another closet to come out of. The truth found me out. And when it did, I can't go back. you can't go back. That's really why you're sitting here. Something you have heard or read or intuited has you sitting here saying, something's stirring. Like Barbara said, something's stirring. You sleep, you creep, you leap, and then you are steeped in the truth. That's how it works. So, surrounded, lying on the floor, surrounded. Why'd you have to wait? Where were you? Just a little late. You found me. So I love the humanness of this, the divine humanness of this. Where were you? And why did you have to wait so long to find me? Why did you have to wait so long to show me the truth? And you know what? The answer to those questions is, who cares? Who cares? How many people do you think get caught up in the, why did this take so long to happen? And they're so busy being upset about how long it took to happen, they forget that it happened. Why did it take me so long to understand the truth? Who cares? Now you understand the truth. Act appropriately. And if you really understand the truth, you're not standing here going, why did that happen? You're not. If you really understand the truth, you're standing here saying, and so what? And I move on. That's the truth, yes? So if any of you are sitting here thinking that it's just a little late for you, or that all this stuff came up just a little too late, or as Jerome Robbins used to say, there he had an actor in West Side Story who was he was very eager to be good in the show. And Jerome Robbins dubbed him the too much too soon person. He would always do too much too soon and just not wait for it to happen. So in this case, it's like, we're like the too late people. It's just so late, and now I don't want to do it. Do you ever get that? It's like, you know what? Too bad. Too late now. Too late. I'm not going to do it. I am not going to be successful now. Never have been. Why should I now? Right? I'm not going to have money now. Why should I have money now? Never showed up when I needed it. Really? Think about that. You found me. You found me. You have been found out. Every one of you in this room today, you have been found out. It has been found out that you are God. Now act accordingly in every area of your life. So the title of the song obviously is You Found Me, but the you is something within you that is you, not without, not outside of you. So in the bridge it says, early morning the city breaks. I've been calling for years and years and years and years. And you never left me, this English is a little much suspect, and you never left me no messages. You never send me no letters. You got some kind of nerve taking all that I want. As someone who used to really criticize lyrics when they weren't perfect, when they didn't rhyme in the Sondheimian way, I've totally changed my tune on that because these lyrics get me. Really get me. You got some kind of nerve taking all I want. Our relationship with God needs to transform to a relationship as God. And we need to really get it, that there is absolutely no way for anyone, any place, anything, any entity, any deity to take from us. There just isn't. This whole concept of taking what I want. You took what I want and you didn't answer me. How many of you have ever, and I have, because I grew up Catholic and I was very much into my Catholicism, and I really believed God's job was to give me what I wanted once I was deserving of it. And oh my God, I did a lot of things that really took me off that plane of action. Anybody else? Thank you, Orestes. Orestes hammer right up. Yup. Right? So there's the paradigm that I got to tell you, I still think we have that paradigm. I still think it's stuck in there at times. I don't deserve this. Is this really, could I really have this? Even that question, could I really have this? Someone just said to me, I had a session this week, and someone said to me, I really want, I don't want to be a part of the business of show business anymore because it just bothers me. I don't like the cutthroat nature of it. I don't like all the negativity, all the things they brought forth of the business of show business, which I could say, all right, I can see that. And they said, and I just wish that I could just allow myself to express my talent and have the opportunity to express my talent without having to deal with the business. Now, the logical mind would say, well, good luck with that. But we're not logical, are we? We are not just logical. We deal with spiritual logic. And spiritual logic says it is done unto you as you believe. So a mind that decides, I am here on this earth purely to express my God-given talents, purely to allow myself to creatively live my life, and I'm not interested in that, that mind, that secure mind should be able to make that happen, shouldn't it? Every single person in this audience, you today, you should be able to make whatever it is your mind absolutely decides to have happen, happen. That's what we're talking about here. When God finds you, when the truth finds you, and you remember who you are, love only, forgive everything, and remember who you are. When you remember who you are, stating what it is you desire is really just stating your word, and then it happens. Provided you don't put anything else in the mix. Swami Vivekananda wrote this: the moment I have realized God sitting in the temple of every human body, the moment I stand in reverence before every human being and see God in that person, that moment I am free from bondage. Everything that binds vanishes, and I am free. The moment, the absolute moment you see God as the truth of your being, everything is back on the table. And I don't care how old you are. And I don't care what's happened to you up to this point in your life. Everything is back on the table. Someone asked me yesterday, how did you feel when you gave up Broadway to be a minister? And the question really struck me funny. I was like, I don't remember ever giving up Broadway to be a minister. I have followed my desires. I have followed my path. I just keep following. And that path may take me back to Broadway. I don't know. You know, I can, they'll do another revival of 42nd Street and I can play the old guy. Which is a funny story. Someone did offer me 42nd Street a few years ago and I was like, I could never do that again. They said, no, not that part. I saw myself as Billy Lawler. They saw myself as whatever his name was. What was his name? Bob. Thank you, Julian Marsh. Yes. And when they said Julian Marsh, my mind went to, I could never pull that off. He's like in his 50s. So what this song is really here to say is, here's a concept today. You know, we're talking about freedom. I love what Vivekananda says. You're free as soon as you know who you are. And we're talking about being found. So, have you found it yet? Have you found out who you are yet? Now, when I say found out, I mean, how did you find it? Do you find it everywhere you go? And that's where I'm going to go with this. So the last phrase is, final phrase of the song is, why'd you have to wait? Where were you? Where were you? Just a little late. You found me. You found me. Why'd you have to wait to find me? To find me. Now, the question is, that's the question to ourselves. And it's not why did you have to, but are you going to still keep on waiting to really find the truth about yourself? What are you going to wait for? What are you waiting for, really? So, the title of my talk today is Now What? And I told this story, so some of you will have heard it, but when I was at Unity a few weeks ago and I gave a talk, I stepped into the Unity Church giving the talk of I Am God. Now, in most of the churches around the country, I Am God is a little bit beyond the scope of what is inspirational. In fact, it causes a lot of stress in a lot of churches because that's not really what they believe yet. I am God. I am an expression of God. I and the Father are one. I am the Father. So I understood that. And I asked permission from the minister to give my talk the way I wanted to give my talk and let the cards fall where they may. And he said, sure. And so I did. And it was really a great afternoon at Unity. And Don and these guys were there. Lori were there. And I had a great time. So at the end of the service, all these people waited. They have very long lines to say hello to the minister, especially when you annoy them. So they came through the line, and I had I was probably in line for an hour, just talking to people, and this little old lady came up to me. She looked up and she said, all right, you. She said, I am God. Now what? I was frightened. I was. She looked at me with this face of like, I dare you. And I said, you know what? I said, I don't have an answer for you right now. I said, but I promise you in the next few weeks, I know what I'm going to be talking about on Father's Day. And I said, so in the next few weeks, I will answer that question for you. So, and I told her, I said, you got to watch my talks now for the next few weeks till you get this answer. So I'm going to know that you're out there watching this. And I'm going to answer that question. Because I've been asking myself that question. Is it enough to say I am God and then not live it? No, it isn't. Is it enough to say that it's all God and then still feel like certain parts of your life suddenly step away from that truth? No, it isn't. Is it an easy thing to say, I am God, and then live it wholeheartedly, fully? It hasn't appeared to be as easy as I thought, to be honest. There are moments when and some of you might have even noticed it, there are moments when I might fall out of loving only. There are moments when I forget to forgive briefly, very briefly for me, truthfully. I forgive instantaneously. In fact, my husband's always saying, don't forgive until you figure it out first. Understand what you're forgiving before you forgive and then have to forgive again because you forget it when it happens again. Did I get that right?
Pretty close.
Yeah. So there are moments when I can fall a little short of my own mission statement for my own life. Remember who you are, though, is the one that I'm best at. Really, I'm best at remembering who I am. Because even when I do something stupid, those rare moments that I do something stupid, I remember that it's God doing it. I do. I will actually remember. I will say to myself, oh my God, God just did that. I will. I will blame God. And then I'll realize that it's up to me to take the consciousness that I have innately and step into it at the level I want to be stepping into it at. Because as we say, the relative world of form is the absolute at the level of the relative, at the level of whatever level you're at. That's how you're experiencing God. So when you say, I am God, every person in this room is correct. And you may be having a very different experience than this person over here, but you are both God. You are just experiencing life at a level that you are willing to step into. That's how it works. So in terms of what next, what I came up with as I walked through this in my mind for the last month, I came to the understanding that when I say I am God, nothing changes. I am God is not this big, the skies part and the seas part and the skies break open and sunshiny days from now until the end of time and all eternity. That's not what I am God does for me. Nothing changes. I can stand right here and say, I am God. And this little fairy music plays. So, nothing really changes, And yet, everything changes. So I want you to hear this. I am God, nothing changes, and everything changes. Nothing changes, and everything changes. I rode my bike to the theater yesterday, and as I rode my bike, I put in my headphones with Pandora and put in spa. You can put in, I don't know if you know this, you can put in whatever you want to hear. So I wanted to hear spa music as I rode my bike, softly so I could hear the cars beeping if I needed to. So I'm listening to this beautiful spa music and I'm driving, and all of a sudden it was like I was in one of those Fantasia. The trees were moving and singing and everything, and I was like, this is what I mean. When I step into a consciousness of enjoying my day, of enjoying my life, enjoying everything around me, seeing God everywhere, when I decide to see God everywhere, I see God everywhere. And it was a beautiful ride to the center. It was just unbelievable ride. I had this incredible drive, and it was, nothing really changed. Those trees are the same as they were yesterday when I drove by in my car and didn't notice them, right? That didn't change, and yet everything changed. The entire scenario changed. That's what will happen for you when you actually find yourself in the center of I am God. Nothing will really change, but what will change is your relationship to everything in your life. Every aspect of your life changes because your relationship to every aspect of your life changes when you know who you are. I mean, think about it. When you know who you are in any respect, that changes the way you behave. When you know you are the boss, doesn't that kind of change the way you go through your day? It does, because you're in charge. You need to deal with this. This is going to change your behavior. So let's just say you know you are God. I am God. Every aspect of your life must change. If you're looking at a challenge, you're not looking at it from the place of the challenge, because you're not the challenge. I am God. Therefore, I am that which can move right through this challenge. A mind that knows that creates what it wants. So while I am God is a beautiful thing to say and a beautiful idea, and it's a wonderful ideology, the now what part of this, the now what has to be actually being willing to see this truth in your life everywhere you look. And we sing it at the end of the service. I see God in everything. That's the now what. Now's the work. Now's the, as Barbara talked about, I think we have been asleep long enough. I think we have creeped around under the surface of truth long enough. And I do think it's time for us to take this next leap and not just spout, I am God, but actually live, I am God. And that means that you are challenged, literally challenged, to change your attitudes, to change your minds, to change the atmosphere of your life, to change the way you relate to one another, to change all of your perceptions and ideas of what this world is, and start telling the world what you expect of it. Because that's what God can do, that's what God should do, that's what God is doing. So today, you actually found God on the corner of Lancashire and Magnolia. And what you found was that it ended up being you. And that there was no need for you to ask any more questions, because you are the living question, ready to be answered. And what I know is that the answer that you are looking for is the answer you came here with. And that's that it is time, it is more than time, to step into the power that you are, to step into your inalienable rights to life, liberty, and not only the pursuit of happiness, but to live the happiness that you are innately inside of you, ready to just let out. Are you ready to do that? Yes. Then happy 4th of July. Thank you. Thank you.